All right, and I will turn it over to Janie Payne, the president of or the chair of our CCAC board.
Welcome, everybody. It's exciting to see this many parents and caregivers and people from the community here tonight for our family forum. We want to welcome you to Partnering for Success, learning lessons from the 2026 school year. We're here to collaborate to improve our students' experience with special education by leveraging the thoughts and ideas this group will bring to the table. We highly value your input, and that is why SECAC is hosting this forum. Our role is to serve in an advisory capacity to Prince George's County County Schools, in particular special education, through the lens of our parents and caregivers. We want to understand from you what's working well and what can be better for the next school year. This meeting is being recorded, as Marcy said, and will drive the SECAC report to the Board of Education and administrators and serve as a compass for PGCPS to provide regular updates on progress for 2026-2027. I'd like to first acknowledge our board member, Pamela Boozer Brothers, who is here with us this evening. Thank you for being here. Also want to acknowledge the SECAC Executive Board. We have Vice Chair Samantha Dawson-Williams, our Secretary Genevieve Janai, and our Treasurer is Alicia Baines. We also want to acknowledge our advisors with PGCPS, Trinell Bowman, the Associate Superintendent, Department of Special Education, who is here with us, Karen Andrews, Director, Department of Special Education. We have Michelle Blakely, Beth Hare, Danica Cole, Yvette Young, and Angela Samaran, all who are here with you tonight. So without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to Interim Superintendent Dr. Sean Joseph.
Well, hello, everybody, and thank you for coming tonight. I know we've been working hard to try to get things right for families, and I know, I'm very aware that, everybody's experience is personal and unique, and so we've got with 200 schools, you're going to have lots of different experiences, but our expectation is to make sure we're doing everything possible, everything we say, everything we do you feel that we're actively working to support. And anything that doesn't feel that way, we want to know about it because we've got more work to do when that's the case. But I'll share that, during my first 100 days, the message from our special education families was clear that you wanted to be seen, heard, and valued as true partners. And I want you to know we heard you and reacted. I guess about last week, and I send a message to all 22,000 employees every week. And I think it was last week, I shared with them, that special education work is personal to me because I have a niece, Zoe, who's 9 years old, who is in Frederick County schools. And she's nonverbal and she has challenges in terms of how, she has physical disabilities. And so I, am sensitive because I've seen my brother and sister-in-law just kind of fight a system to try to get supports and services. And luckily, because of where I sit, and I mentored the superintendent in Frederick County at one point in her career, I've got access and we can get services done. But you shouldn't need to know somebody in powerful positions to get services. I mean, it should be an inalienable right. And so I come to this work, with that spirit, but we launched our first Welcome Back School of Special Education meet and greet at every school to set the tone from day one that our expectation is that we collaborate with families, not just comply. And we've prioritized our people, hiring dedicated recruiters and significant reductions. We reduced our vacancies from over 200 at this time last year to down to about 80 this year. And we've dramatically improved ensuring that students who need dedicated aides have them. So we feel like we've made real progress, but we know that we've still got a lot of work to do. And we are backing our commitment with an investment because budgets reveal priorities. And if you have been watching the budget season, you see half of my request this year, 27 million of my $50 million request, was dedicated towards special education because I know we've woefully underfunded, and you got to put your money where your mouth is, and that's something that I know I've been committed to doing. Special education was identified as a big rock for us in the district. When I say big rock, meaning it's something that I want the whole system to prioritize. We have over 17,000 special education students, and we have to get it right for you. We know when we strengthen our system for our most vulnerable learners, the entire district rises. And so, we are committed to doing that. And that's why we have nearly a dozen team members represented tonight because, we know this work requires alignment, it requires partnership, and it requires all of us. And we're going to move beyond compliance to outcomes, and that's what brings us to this moment. So if we move to the next slide, this is a consequential moment in our school system's history because every child behind every budget line is a child. Behind every budget line is a child, and a child waiting for service, a family navigating uncertainty. This is the child with an IEP whose family is still waiting for consistent support, and I recognize that. And because for some of our most vulnerable students, this isn't theoretical; it's happening right now, and you need the supports and services. And next slide. The challenge that we have in Prince George's County, from the way I look at it, is we have, overinvested in some schools and underinvested across many schools. And so we see significant central overinvestment in programs and services serving a few students. And then we see structural underinvestment across many schools that lack specialized labels. And that's something, the blueprint for early childhood success should be helping. The state now requires funding go directly to the school, which shifts because now we can't be as inequitable as we had been legally because the dollars are now tracking students. And so I'm hoping over time, because of how the funding has changed, we're going to see less variance across schools where students need those dollars. To me, this isn't about taking away from one group and giving to another. It's about fulfilling our obligation to ensure, that every child, especially those with the greatest needs, have access to the supports that they need to succeed. Next slide. And so, what we're talking about now is, because of how public education has been funded in our county, we're at a moment that calls for thoughtful recalibration. It's a shift from concentrated excellence to distributed excellence, and not abandoning what works, but expanding what works so it reaches every classroom. I've got to figure out, in the midst of cutting $150 million in our budget, how we ensure that the teachers that we have are getting the support that they need so they can support our children. I tell people you can't have a championship team without championship players. And the way you get championship players is you build their capacity. And that's what I'm looking to do as we go into this budget. And so, in Prince George's County, access to excellence can't be something that a child finds. It has to be something, every child receives, and in every building in our school system. Next slide. And so, our investments have to reflect that shift. So as we developed our new strategic plan, which is called Forward by Design, we're working to, make sure that math and literacy are focused across the district, that we stabilize our special education services, and ensure that, one, we have special ed teachers and paraeducators and all the physical people, but two, they're trained and the supports and resources are there. A priority for me is looking at at our autism programs. They're busting out of the seams right now, and it just feels like we have to have more support there as well. But there are a lot of across the board there are needs. But right now, to me, it looks like the autism programs, in particular, have exploded, and more support is definitely needed there. So it's my commitment. We won't scale back for special education. I mean, it's a federal requirement, so it's not optional the way I look at it. So whether we have budgeted the funds or not, when there is a need for special education, it's my good job to make sure we address that need, and then I figure out how to address it, across the system. Next slide. And so it's going to take all of us. We're at the end. I think the council votes on the budget tomorrow. So the advocacy component of this year's budget is over. But once one budget stops, the next one starts. And it's really where I need you all is for us to, have the type of relationship and partnership where we can talk openly, honestly, and focus us on advocating not only at the county level but at the state level and at the federal level here, because as special education was supposed to be supported about 40% of the budget should come from the federal government, and right now in actuality only about 15% has ever come. So I think our voices could be heard and we can have an impact at the federal, the state, and the local level. I look forward to moving forward with you deliberately with data transparency and collaboration. So with that, I will stop. I will unfortunately need to leave at about 7 o'clock because we have both Miss Bowman and I, because we've been working with the Board of Education with a group of parents and stakeholders looking at our budget and looking for efficiencies as we get into next year, because we know next year will be equally as challenging. And we're just starting early with a broader group of parents and stakeholders. So thank you for allowing me to just share at these couple thoughts here.
Thank you so much, Dr. Joseph. We'll now turn it over to Dr. Jason Ray, who is our Director of Equity, Diversity, and Belonging.
Thank you, Ms. Bowman. Next slide, please. And good evening. I am so excited to see all of these ideas already starting to populate the chat. It feels like people have come ready to share, and that's exactly what we want you to do this evening. Just want to give you some just kind of high-level overview of what we're going to do. Next slide, please. Before we do that, though, there are some norms that we have adopted for these meetings over time, and I just wanted to kind of review those again before we get into the actual format. The first thing is, it's really important that we use titles rather than individual names of anyone you need to refer to in your comments. That is for privacy reasons, and I think that's a courtesy we can all extend to each other. The next norm, please refrain from using any vulgar remarks, inappropriate language, or making personal attacks against anyone. We are here as collaborators this evening, and there's no space for that sort of behavior. The next thing is, if the norms are not followed, you may be muted or the chat feature may be disabled. Next slide. Please refrain from discussing your specific student case. If you have concerns about your child's specific case, please complete this link, which will be in the chat, and someone from the Family Support Center or the Special Education Leadership Team will follow up with you. And if you would like written feedback to anything that you've said or any questions you might have, there's a link there where you can email the Family Support Center as well. And I will say a little bit more about the feedback piece once we get into our discussion protocol. So if you adhere to these guidelines, we will have a smooth meeting and we are ready to get started. But first, we have some background information from Ms. Bowman and Dr. Tucker.
Thank you, Dr. Ray. So what we want to do now is give you the equity foci for schools and districts that we've been following for the last 2 years. So if we go to the next slide, this should be familiar to some of you. We have been working very intentional. You heard Dr. Joseph talk about shared responsibility, and we have been doing just that, shared responsibility, not only with the Department of Special Education, but with our schools team, the area office, now our ombudsman's office, as well as other collaborators. We thought it was very important when we started this journey in the 24-25 school year to really identify, honor, and nurture the unique brilliance of our students with disabilities. And so we partnered with the Office of Equity, Diversity, and Belonging to come up with 3 focus areas that were intended for schools and even our central office. The first area was cultivating a positive family relationship for students with disabilities in the IEP process. The second area we wanted to focus on is developing, implementing, and monitoring specially designed instruction. So things like accommodations, interventions, supplementary aids and services, program modifications, etc. And the third piece for schools and district offices is to really look at how do we promote inclusive practices for students with disabilities. On the next slide, what we're going to do on the column to the left, we're going to give you our lessons learned from the field. And then on the right, we're going to talk about our adjustments for next school year. We worked with our Academic Achievement Committee through the Board of Education to do 3 cycles of presentations this school year where we looked at our problem of practice. And we identified the 3 areas, which was family engagement, specially designed instruction, and inclusive practices. We talked about our theory of action. We talked about what we would expect to see in these areas. Then we came back and did a mid-year check-in with our Board of Education, Academic Achievement Committee on our data and where we were. And then the last culminating meeting was to come back and talk about adjustments, which is what Dr. Ray is going to talk about today to walk you through to provide that feedback. So when we thought about our family engagement, we have done a lot of work, both in the Department of Special Education as well as our principal and assistant principal leadership meetings. We've had the opportunity in those meetings to really do a book study around what does it mean to engage your families. You heard Dr. Joseph talk about the meet and greet that we had at the beginning of the year for all of our schools to recalibrate and reset. And we were able to engage our parents and knowing that we had to have intentional effort for ongoing relationships, clear communication, and actively elevating voices. The second area was specially designed instruction. And our lessons from the field was that we knew that we had to differentiate in-person training and role clarification for our staff. What does it mean to be a co-teacher? How do you engage with your co-teacher partner? What does it mean to be a related service provider? And really spend some time understanding the role clarification and how those different roles support the implementation of services. We also knew that collaboration is critical for consistent implementation, and that was a big lesson that we learned in our work this year. And we also know that we have to align and do a better job with aligning specially designed instruction directly with IEP goals that creates focus on instruction. For inclusive practices, one of our big lessons learned is that we needed to be successful in expanding. What do we mean by inclusive practices for all stakeholders, including our parents and guardians? And we also recognize a notable gap of student voice and perspectives from our students with disabilities that weren't necessarily central to us addressing those equity efforts around inclusive practices. As we think forward to the 26-27 school year for family engagement, we know that we have to continue to train our families in understanding the IEP process and also build staff capacity for collaboration and also enhance those IEP structures to be more flexible and accessible. One of the big things that we're doing as a partner with our equity office is really doing observations and looking at how IEP meetings are ran from a strength-based approach. And so our equity office has been out observing IEP meetings of the chairpersons and facilitators that chair those meetings and really giving them job-embedded coaching and feedback based on what they heard in the meeting to increase their capacity to really engage our families. For specially designed instruction, we know that we have had consistent implementation of our tools, our look for documents, our planning documents, and we know that we have to focus on what are those non-negotiables, what are those expectations for our school, and to make sure not only is the Department of Special Education monitoring that, but also our instructional directors also doing the same monitoring that we are. We know that we have to strengthen our professional learning and differentiated pathways. And so we're excited that Dr. Ava Tasker Mitchell is now leading that work for us as our Associate Superintendent for Organizational Development. And part of her charge is really looking at learning progressions through teachers, learning progressions through support staff, learning progressions through principals, and what do they need? And we'll be doing that learning progression as it relates to special education. We also know that we have to do a better job with job embedded coaching after we do training and providing more exemplars of what it actually looks like in real time in classrooms in various settings. For our inclusive practices, we've talked about developing new strategies to engage staff in professional learning to deepen their understanding of what does it mean to really be inclusionary in your school, and how do you have a sense of belonging for students with disabilities. That includes training not only your staff but also the students in the school building. And then we'll make sure that as we look at inclusive practices, we're going to incorporate the student voice into those trainings to really address some of the topics like belonging. Do you feel bullied? And all of those pieces that we know student voice will give us as we implement our training. So those are just some of the adjustments that we're making for next year. And I'll turn it back over to Dr. Ray.
Thank you. Okay, so I want to point out a few things. First of all, we have a large group this evening, and that is something to celebrate. I see 157 participants. And with a group this large, we have to be very thoughtful about the way that we solicit feedback and the way that we try to hear everyone. And so with this protocol, our challenge was to find a way for you to be heard and for you to really kind of make suggestions that were received and heard by all. And we've heard in the past that people in this group don't like to be in breakout rooms. You want to hear everything together. We heard you. We also heard that you don't really necessarily want to fill out forms and surveys. You want to be able to talk. We heard you. So this protocol was designed with your particular preferences in mind. Next slide, please. And so we've just heard from Ms. Bowman about the big three buckets that the Department of Special Education has been focused on for the last 2 years. And this protocol is designed around those. So here's what's going to happen. It's called the fishbowl and waterfall. We have 60 minutes allocated for this discussion, and that 60 minutes will be broken up into 4 segments. The first segment is around family engagement. The second segment is specially designed instruction. The third segment is inclusive practices. And then we have a fourth segment for general feedback. Okay? So for each of those 15-minute segments, here's how it's going to go. 1 minute just to review the proposed adjustments and next steps that Ms. Bowman just talked about regarding each of those areas, just 1 minute. And then we will have participants come off of mute and share their feedback on those adjustments and those next steps. So your feedback can be anything that you think is appropriate to share. So if you have ideas for improvement, if you have questions, that's fine too. Although we are not going to answer the questions in that moment because we're in a listening space, you can ask us questions that we can record and give you feedback on later. That's fine. So each participant will have up to 3 minutes to share. Okay. After that, then anyone who didn't get a chance to share orally, who still has something they would like to share, can type into the chat whatever it is that they want to say. And then I will ask everyone at the same time to hit enter so we can see all of the additional feedback in the chat. Then what our team is going to do after this is over is we're going to take all of that feedback from the chat, as well as the recorded remarks that you're giving us orally. We're going to compile it, we're going to analyze it, and we're going to send it all back to you via email with some next steps. Okay? So that's the protocol. Again, it's the fishbowl and waterfall. We feel like it's a good way to get everybody's voices into the mix while also managing the size of the group that we have. Okay, Ms. Lyles, do you have a question about the protocol?
Jason, I'm sorry. I'm going to interrupt for just 1 second and request. We've had a request from the interpreters if everyone could slow down just a tad so that they can make sure they're interpreting accurately.
Yes, thank you for that.
So in a few minutes, y'all are going to begin engaging with the families where we can address our concerns.
Yes, we're going to start right now.
Okay.
All right. So to get us thinking about family engagement, which is what we're going to talk about first, we have a poll. And the question is, how would you describe your family engagement experience at your child's school this year? Excellent, which is you felt welcomed, informed, and involved. Good, communication and involvement opportunities were consistent. Was it fair? Some engagement opportunities were provided, but improvements are needed. Was it poor? I did not feel meaningfully engaged or connected. Or are you unsure? That's our poll to get you to think about that. You see it on the Zoom there. Go ahead and provide your response. Okay, I see the responses coming in. About another 20 seconds or so. Okay. We have about half. Okay. All right. So in the interest of time, I'll end the poll here. We have a pretty even spread. So 21% feel that it's been excellent. 25% feel it's been good. 29% feel that it's been fair. And 20% feel that it's poor. Okay. So now we're going to move into the protocol. Next slide, please. This is a review of the adjustments that Ms. Bowman laid out for us. We want to continue training for families in understanding of the IEP process. We need to continue to build staff capacity for collaboration, and we have to enhance our IEP structures to be more flexible and accessible for families at target schools. So at this time, if you would like to comment orally for the group, you can raise your hand using the raise your hand feature. You have up to 3 minutes, and we will take as many as we can in 12 minutes. Ms. Lyles, is that a hand from before, or is this a hand to respond now?
It's a hand to respond now.
All right.
My last answer to the last question was kind of mixed feelings. Um, because my child has been in two separate schools this last school year based on a elopement, and that's been a big issue and a concern I've been addressing with number of people, even with the Board of Education. I'm happy with the school that where she is now, but with these kids and their needs and their ability to get away, what they observe and everything, like I'm just like with security, the additional support in the classrooms for the teachers, even though some of the classrooms have three teachers, my child still gets out of class or has gotten out of the building. And that's very concerning to me. She's currently at Colin Powell, which I'm happy with. I've been good with. They're very communicative. They're very friendly family. They keep me on point. The last school, there were probably was some challenges there with that, but it was a lot of the eloping, a lot of the wandering, not having the things in school. So this school is more staffed and newer than the old school. Like, what is the county doing to making sure that these kids with these special needs are being secured in their class or the teachers having the support? It's so many different reasons. And then like also like with music or dance, some type of class that suits their needs to help them. The sensory classes are a big help. But say if a child likes to dance and you want to put them in something you can't because they run, they can't have additional support in that extracurricular
Lyles,
class.
thank you
It's
for sharing, Ms. Lyles. That's the time for the comment. I want to point out one thing, and thank you for going first because that's always kind of like the test run. We're going to get feedback related specifically to the topic that you see on the screen. So right now we're dealing with only family engagement. And what you were talking about regarding safety, the best time to talk about that would be when we open it up for general feedback. So we're going to move through family engagement first, and then instruction, and then inclusive practices. So questions around elopement and safety, that would be for the fourth part. Okay, so I'm just clarifying the process for everybody. I know we haven't done this before, so thank you for that, Ms. Lyles. Tiffany, I believe, was next, and we will give you your 3 minutes. Go ahead.
I
Tiffany,
apologize. I'm sorry, I needed to come off of mute. But I just, what systems are in place to ensure families receive that proactive communication, I guess, before, like instead of being reactive, being proactive? And how do parents become partners with the school in order to, I guess, help mitigate those problems? I know a big thing is um, staffing. And uh, as we look at all of these plans, are we looking at better ways for retention to be able to attract qualified individuals and also give them what they're worth in order to be able to assist our special population of students.
Thank you very much. We will move to Lisa.
Yes, thank you. Just thinking about family engagement, I understand that that's something that the district has truly been focused on, but I think that we should really have an honest conversation about how we have fallen short in that area. Just a few months ago, Senator Alonzo Washington held a special education public forum, and every single parent, to include myself, that took the microphone to give public comment, complained or discussed the painful results of what we call parent retaliation in special education. So if we're going to have this conversation about family engagement, we need to have a broader conversation about parent retaliation. Now, I was at that forum with at least 3 or 4 other mothers that I knew. There were at least 10 other mothers that I didn't know. So this is not a coordinated attempt by a group of parents to attack the PGCPS or to attack SECAC. These are very real realities that are happening. And I just would appreciate if we can talk about parent retaliation because it's something that's expressly prohibited by Title II of the ADA and also Section 504 of the 1973 Rehabilitation Act. And also, I would encourage PGCPS to educate parents that their children are covered under IDEA, but they are equally covered simultaneously under Title II of the ADA and Section 504. They have greater protections. Once we educate our parents about their protections, then parents can come to the IEP meetings and make meaningful and informed decisions about their children when it comes to contributing to the development of a reasonably calculated IEP. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I believe Lauren was next.
Good afternoon, everybody. So in terms of family engagement, I'm looking at the slide, and when I read enhanced IEP structures, it kind of reads very vague. So my first suggestion would be to give it more meat, to be more specific in what that is actually going to look like. And I know we can't give all of the details right here, but these are the type of things in special education that give loopholes to schools, principals, IEP coordinators to use their discretion instead of following the letter of what should be actually done when we talk about special education. The second thing I would like to say is when we talk about again enhancing IEP structures and flexibility, we have to remember to listen to our service providers, our speech paths, our OTs, our ACC device people, because they have a lot of wealth of knowledge and actually requiring that schools implement things parents are requesting on their IEP. Just to give an example, I have a sensory seeking kiddo, and his need base presents behaviorally when it is actually a sensory issue, i.e., the classroom does not have enough sensory items to help him regulate his emotions in a way whereby they can get him to use the language that he actually has or do the skills that he is proven that he can do on a consistent basis. But when we lack those first understandings that those things work together, we end up in situations where we have to have conversations like this. And the last thing, dang, it just slipped my mind. And when we talk about inclusivity as family engagement, or uh, I really believe that especially the autism programs should not be self-contained as many of them are. I think we have many kiddos in these classrooms that are twice exceptional, and they do need the outlet. So I'm not saying that we should disrupt the learning environment of other kiddos, but gym, art, music,
Thank you, Ms.
all
Boyd.
of those
The
things should
time.
be co-done. I got you. I'm shutting up now.
No, it's okay. Nope. We love. I want to hear it all. So here's what we're going to do next. I see we still have three hands that are raised. Now's the time to type your feedback around family engagement into the chat. Do not hit enter yet. Just type it in and take your time to kind of formulate your thoughts. You have about a minute to gather your thoughts and type them in. Once I direct you to hit enter, then we'll all do it at the same time. We'll see it all there, and then we are going to copy that over into our master document, okay? So if you want to react to what someone else did, if you want to agree, disagree, add something new, or talk about something new related to family engagement, now's your chance to type it into the chat. And we will hit enter in about 30 seconds. Okay, at this time, please share your comments and enter. Okay, I'm seeing a lot of reactions around the retaliation piece, bullying, some comments around the inconsistency, transparency, and extracurriculars. Okay, so DSE partners, if you could make sure we copy all of those. And again, we're also downloading the transcript from your oral comments too. So we'll have a wealth of feedback to analyze and share back with you. All right, let's go to the next slide. We're going to move into the specially designed instruction poll. And this particular, we call it bucket, but we know the SEI is primarily about what's happening in the classroom. It's around instruction, but as families, as partners, you have ideas about how this could be improved. So what is the most important component of effective specially designed instruction from your point of view? Is it individualized supports, so i.e. accommodations, interventions, supplementary aids, and related services? Is it access to grade level curriculum? Is it progress monitoring and data? Or is it collaboration between school and family? Let's launch the poll. Let's see how we feel about this. Okay. So far, looks like individualized supports are far and away the most important. About 10 more seconds. Okay, I am going to end the poll now. All right, so 60% said individualized supports. The next biggest was collaboration between school and family, and then progress monitoring and data. Access to grade level curriculum came in last with 7%. All right, so we're going to go into the protocol again. Again, we will take up to as many comments as we can get in about 12 minutes. And we will begin with Dorothy Moya.
Yes, hi, good evening. I've really been at a loss this year. My child has had a 504 for the last 3 years, and when they were in elementary, we had access to the textbooks to help us because they have a medical treatment plan where they miss school. But this year we were not given access to that. And when I talked to the school counselor and the 504 office in our most recent meeting, they said, oh, you just have to go into Canvas. And I said, no, all the stuff is not in Canvas. You'll go in Canvas, it says there's no assignments, but you have to look in, 5 other programs to find all the work. And the counselor informed me that she personally has more children than I do, and she just has to keep up with it. The implication being that so do I. So I really don't know how I can, communicate effectively when these are the employees and this is how they're treating me as the mother.
Thank you for sharing that. And thank you. Courtney Thrower.
Hello. Um, as it relates to the specially designed instruction, and I looked at the part that was in parentheses that said related services. So I was in my dream world, I would love for the, if there was a possibility, um, for the aftercare services that PGCPS hires. My daughter attends a different school. She's in an aftercare program. um, my son is at a different school. He's in a regional program, and they have the same aftercare program. However, I don't feel, and there's no shade to Alphabets. They're absolutely wonderful. I cannot live without them. I love them. But my son would not be able to attend such a service, because he would need someone with him in particular, those things. Thankfully, I work from home, so I take my lunch break to grab him from when he gets out of school. So my dream would be, it doesn't have to look like Alphabets. It doesn't have to do that. Potentially, and I know different schools have different start and end times, but I was even thinking of 2 hours after the particular end of a school day. And that's my baby right there doing his roostering. That's what I call it. 2 hours after the school day ends, and that is regardless if they let out early or regular time. If there was an opportunity for some type of aftercare services, not as a babysitter, but additional support. Um, I think I briefly saw a comment about ABA. I understand that that's not something that PGCPS al- allow may not be the word, but I can't think of another word to come into the building to do supports, because I do understand ABA requires a lot of time and you don't want to take a child from instruction. However, potentially those couple hours after the school day, whether it's in-house staff that are certified, ABA therapists, or there's plenty of resources even in the county that could send someone to the school to potentially support. And it could be in a group setting, or not necessarily everything has to be individual, because that's extra bodies in the building, all those things. But that was just a thought that I always, dreamt about, some type of extra support. ABA therapy is wonderful. I know, I hear, but it's really challenging to accommodate in the evening after work, or, very limited weekend time, but you need the hours to really make a difference. So,
Thank you, Courtney, for that.
yep, thank you. That's
Thank you
all.
for and those practical suggestions are very helpful. Thank you for that. Natalia, go ahead, please. Natalia Hamilton, are you there?
Yes, I'm sorry. I was trying to come off mute.
No worries.
And I just kind of want to I guess I'm now piggybacking off of what she just said. I am a mom of a 2-year-old, so I'm not as familiar with the entire special needs program of Prince George's County because my daughter has just been diagnosed with autism. So she's going into she's about to turn 3, so she would be going into the preschool program. And so with finding out a lot about how shorthanded we are in the classrooms and everything, I'm just surprised that ABA is not allowed inside the schools. Um, So because of that, I just kind of wanted to suggest exactly what she said, since we are shorthanded with qualified individuals in the classrooms, that especially for someone who, like my daughter, who's nonverbal and would need that additional attention, like she just said, with taking the time away from other instruction, I still think that even if the ABA stayed to the side until the teacher gave the instruction, and then the ABA therapists were able to go to their children and sit down like at the individual desk and help them through the activity, that one-on-one that the teacher is not able to give to each individual student. So it wouldn't be disruptive. It would be something that could help. And the ABA get paid through the insurance. So I don't see, or I don't know if ABA would have to get paid through the county or how that works with the finances. But currently, my ABA is paid through the insurance. So that would not be something that would come out of the school's pocket. So just finding out that it's not allowed is kind of disheartening. And then just because I know, since my name was called, I don't know if I'll get the opportunity to speak again, but I know this is something that might be in general, but especially for nonverbal kids to be able to have cameras in classrooms with nonverbal students would be great, because right now, I'm not going to lie, I'm very nervous going into this new school year with a nonverbal child, and they don't allow us to come and sit in the classroom and observe really. So I'm just leaving my child with someone I don't know who cannot speak or talk for herself. And there's no additional help there. So I would feel 1,000 times more comfortable if her ABA therapist, who she's been working with for a while, would be able to be there to assist her through this adjustment.
Thank you for that. And I think all parents can identify with what you said, so I do appreciate you elevating that. Okay, so if you have additional thoughts about specially designed instruction, the proposed adjustments that we have, or anything beyond that, go ahead and start to type them into the chat. Again, we will hit enter at once so we can see them all. And then we will go talk about inclusive practices next. So comments around specially designed instruction. Let's take about 1 minute to type it all out. About 30 more seconds. Okay, please hit enter. We will capture your comments around specially designed instruction. Lots of good stuff here. Just wanted to point out that Kim Tart mentioned that there is a Maryland Senate bill regarding cameras in schools. I'm not sure what the content of that is, but that's good to know. Lots of ideas around suggestions for staff development here. This is excellent. Okay. All right, DSE, if we can copy these comments over. And we are going to talk about inclusive practices now. All right, so again, this is about making sure that all students feel like they belong in school, that they can see ways to participate in the school program, not just in the classroom, but outside of the classroom too. Extracurricular activities, things of that nature. So how can schools best promote a sense of belonging and inclusion for students with disabilities? Is it through increasing peer interaction opportunities? Is it providing ongoing professional development on inclusive practices and disability awareness for staff? Is it including students with disabilities in leadership groups, advisory councils, school-wide events, and school improvement conversations? Or is it offering workshops that help students understand inclusive practices and supports? Let's launch the poll. Okay, about 10 more seconds here. Okay, I'm going to end the poll. And it looks like 45% believe it's about professional development. That's the way to go. Followed by including students with disabilities in leadership groups and advisory councils and school-wide events. Then after that, increasing peer interaction activities and opportunities. And then lastly, offering workshops that help families understand inclusive practices and supports. I just want to let you know, one of the things that the Office of Equity and Diversity and Belonging does is we send what we call equity minutes out to all corners of the school system every week. And our focus has been for most of the year on ideas for inclusive practices. So I just wanted to elevate that and to let you know that we give them actually concrete ideas about things that are happening in schools already, and we kind of share them out so that everybody else can kind of have a toolkit and a resource bank. So we hear you, and we are doing what we can to spread the word. All right, so I have a lot of hands up here. We're going to move right into our protocol. And I believe Ebony Birch was first, unless your hand was up on the last one. Do you want to talk about inclusive practices, Ms. Birch?
Well, yeah, well, since you called on me this time, yeah, yes,
Okay,
really
well,
quickly.
go
Um,
ahead.
and my concern about inclusion, I understand that professional development, most people agreed with that. And yes, that is helpful. But for the last 2 years, I've been hearing about professional development, that this is what they're doing with the staff, this is what we're doing, this, that. But yet we're seeing very little change. I mean, the parents on here, we're expressing the same concerns that we expressed last year and the year before. So my thing is addressing the peer interactions, because having disabled peers with non-disabled peers, there's a benefit for both. For the disabled peers, they learn to engage, they learn to positive interaction, things of that sort, and vice versa with the neurotypical peers, they learn to accept differences. It's important. Autism, ADHD, it's not going away. It is. It's the new child. It's the new child right now. And everyone needs to be on board with how do we coexist and accept each other. Big part of diversity, DEI, I'm sorry, a big part of DEI right now. But I'm stressing more of the interactions only because if they're really getting the professional development training, as we've been hearing, something's not clicking and something's not working.
Thank you, Ms. Birch. And you got a lot of reactions from participants here. I'm going to go to Tiffany Alexander next. I think she may have.
Off the mute. I do apologize. This is a big piece for me. I have a junior in high school who is on a 504. And the most transparent way I can say is that because this is what PG County has told me, she's disabled, but not disabled enough. And there is nothing wrong with her mind, although there is, she has physical challenges. So what I've observed, more of my issues come from the adults versus the children. So just like the last parent said, the training, that's cool, but we need a trainer. We need somebody like quality assurance that's coming around, that's really making sure that these adults are living up to what they said, almost like practitioners do no harm. These kids are they're people. So just like as adults, we understand and we realize when people have an attitude, aren't having a good day, or they feel some type of way. Our kids understand that. My 17-year-old comes home way too often because she overheard a huff, a sigh, or something that an adult has said regarding her needs. So I think that there should be more realistic engagement with the adults that support our children, and us to really understand them. I'm not trying to place blame, because I know they have it hard throughout the day as well. So just trying to figure out that way where the things that we're talking about are also being implemented, and somebody is making sure that they're being implemented. It goes back to everything that everybody has said about the inclusion, the non-retaliation against the parents when we do speak up and advocate for our children, and bring us in as partners a little bit more, instead of trying to come and say, okay, this is what we're going to do, because it's not a one size fits all box for these babies, and accountability is not being held. There is no repercussion, and not saying that I want anybody deemed, or I don't want to mess with anybody's livelihood, but if they accepted a role and they have a job and duty to do, then yes, I do expect for them to perform that duty to the best of their ability. And that is not happening right now. Our staff members are tired, they're worn out, they're burnt out, and they need to be heard too, so that our babies can be seen. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And once again, lots of reactions from the participants. Let me go to Sinmi. I can't read the full name. Miss Sinmi.
Kimberly, hello, good evening. Thank you for having this forum. I agree with what everybody said, and actually, I put my response in the chat. I think all of the above. I don't think we can address it in one sure method. One sure method for inclusion. Just as it is, accountability has Miss said earlier, it has accountability on staff part, accountability on those that are supposed to be managing and making sure these practices are taking place. I think there needs to be training not only for the general education students on how to, manage and deal with their special education peers. I think we spend so much time teaching our special education, um, our babies with special needs to fit in the quote unquote general population, that the same time is not taken to teach the general population students to, you know, tolerate and manage and be accepting of their peers with special needs. And also, just like you said, the training that's taking place. Yes, there's training taking place for the teachers, but then it looks good. But what is the follow through? Is there any follow through or follow up after the training has taken place? We need to see that. And just like the other parent said, they should be, I'm not there to, if I have a concern, I'm not there to, argue. And I need the teachers and staff to understand there's going to be conflict, and conflict is okay. I may not necessarily agree with what you're doing, but that's why we're talking. That's why we're meeting, so that we can, come to a point where we can agree, rather than seeing it as, I'm fighting you all the time. That's not the case. I just need some understanding. So I think all around, if, like I said, on the staff part, on the students with special needs and the students without special needs, I think everybody needs to have some kind of training and be held accountable for that. And it's not all, and I know it's not a cookie cutter. It's not all cookie cutter, because there are some students that they may do well being in an inclusive reading class, but then there are students that may not do well in an inclusive reading class because they're just that below. But then again, they can be included in PE, they can be included, in music and other things like that. So the flexibility also needs to be there to be able to move, back and forth and up and down as needed, and
Thank
has
you,
the
Cindy.
child
I
progresses.
hate to cut you off. That's time. So clearly, I feel safe in saying that this This topic, this bucket, inclusive practices, seems to be the one that's really tugging at our heartstrings the most tonight. So I want to make sure I'm capturing any additional ideas or feedback you have. So please take a moment to type it into the chat. And again, it could be reaction to the adjustments we're going to make, or it can be just something you feel like we need to know or you'd like to share about inclusive practices. So please go ahead and type that in, and then we will hit enter in about 1 minute. About 30 more seconds. Okay, please hit enter. Okay. Yeah, so lots of comments connecting inclusion to equity. And as an equity professional, that really does resonate with me as well. Um, I, I'm personally moved by the idea that our students who don't have disabilities also benefit from learning about interacting with students with disabilities. Like that's so critical, especially in today's world. I see lots of comments around that. Um, a few ideas for different types of trainings that we need to have. And then, yes, this point that disability rights are human rights. So thank you for that. All right, DSC, if we could copy those over into the form. And we are going to move into our last segment. And this segment is general feedback. So I don't want to confine us to only the three topics that our team reported out to the board about. So you as invested community members, families, parents, staff, we have a full range of people here. Now is our chance to hear any feedback that you would like for us to take back and consider. Again, we're going to take all of this, the transcripts from tonight, as well as the comments from the chat. We're going to synthesize them into a report, summarize them out, send it back to you so you can see what is actually going to be used in our report to the board. So at this time, I'm going to pick it right back up with people who've had their hands up. And I'm going to start with Alita.
Hello. I just wanted to comment about, I hear a lot of comments about training, and I think that training is definitely important, but I also wanted to talk about evaluation practices. From my understanding, the annual performance reviews of the teachers and the administrators do not have any metrics to measure their performance when it comes to special education. I also think that it's important to ensure that there are sufficient staffing pools of paraprofessionals. Making classrooms smaller is probably not something that's going to be a short term, deliverable or meaningful action because budget cuts and teachers are constantly leaving the system for various reasons that we all can understand at a very human level. But hiring paraprofessionals to offset that student to teacher ratio is important. And I also think that ensuring that there is a safe way for teachers themselves to report when non-compliance or unsafe practices are happening is very important. I know numerous educators who have students in the school system and who also want to report when their leadership is not supporting them, but they don't have a safe place to go. And this leads to turnover in SPID in Prince George's County. So I think if it would be meaningful to do an exit survey when special educators leave the system and when general educators leave the system to ensure that they aren't being, or to track when they are being retaliated against, because we know for a fact that they are being retaliated against as well.
Thank you for that, Alita. Tanisha Harrison.
Hi, I'm fairly new to the special education realm. So bear with me with hearing like the concerns with the parents, but however, I do think that there is a lack of accountability with the schools in particular. Um, Not so much on the elementary school level because they seem to have more resources than like the upperclassmen, such as like the middle schoolers, because I have one of each. I have one child in elementary school who's receiving the services that he needs. However, when it gets to middle school, it seems like there's a disconnect as far as like reading specialists, things that children need, especially these children that are in a deficit from COVID. In particular, like the reading disconnect and the mathematics, there needs to be more support. The classroom teachers are utilizing the platforms on Clever, overusing them, in my opinion. There's very impersonal instruction, and their justification for that is the classroom sizes and curriculum. So there is a bit of a disconnect between curriculum and one teacher capabilities in the classroom with the mixture of the population being reflected in the classroom. So there is a bit of a disconnect. And also, um, I think that children also need to have more vocal conversations with peers, or not even peers, but like overall in the classroom setting, because they aren't allowed to really interact that much. And with that being said, they don't know their classmates, so they can't really kind of like know their neighbor to accommodate their shortcomings because they don't interact that much. It's really no downtime for the students. So I think implementing a little more social environments into the school at some point or some way will be beneficial.
Thank you for that. Chandra Walton.
Hi, yes. Give me 1 second. Yes, so thank you. So I wanted to say this. I'm actually a parent whose child went through the infant and toddler program with PG County, and I just want to say that when I say that my son talks back because of the infant and toddler program, I know that probably wasn't their goal, but I can't be thankful enough for that infant and toddler program because of the ECC program. Right, it's not part of that general regular school, right? So because of that ECC, my son was nonverbal and he talks back, which made me then write a book about it. So I'm a new author of a book called Phoenix Rising: A Journey Through Autism. And he's going to second grade, and he's doing amazing. And I just saw one of his teachers on here. So Miss K, I love you. Thank you so much. Oh my goodness, James Ryder Randall, ECC, y'all, the infant and toddler program. Parents, if y'all don't know about it, it's called the infant and toddler program. If your child is nonverbal, the infant and toddler program will have them talking back, and be ready for that connection because I love it. It's that connection of them knowing when I tell him to clean his room for him to say, I don't want to. I love the fact that you connected that. Oh my gosh. But I still want you to clean your room, but you connected that. That's what makes me so excited. That's what made me sit on this meeting because I just want you all to know, like, man, James Ryder Randall ECC Infant and Toddler Program will get your kids going. And man, oh my goodness, I just wanted to put that out there to you guys, and just, parents, take heart. We're going to be okay. We're going to do this thing. We're going to get this thing together, and we're going to stand together. And we're going to be in unity, and we're going to get these kids talking. When they talk back, don't be mad. Just be glad that they connecting it. Okay? So
Don't
that's
be
what we got. That's what we got
don't
to
be
do.
mad, just be glad. I love that.
So,
Thank you for
but
sharing some positive news, and I'm so happy that that was a successful experience for you.
yes, thank you.
Alicia Renee.
Hi. And just to piggyback off, my son attended the Infant and Toddlers program, and I will also say my son started off nonverbal. He's currently in the eighth grade, but he was still denied a FAPE in Prince George's County Public Schools. So there's that. Um, what I want to say is what I call is the big delay, right? And so if I had to give feedback, my feedback would be that despite repeated notice, escalating evidence, when I say escalating evidence, I mean multiple state complaints with findings, multiple IEP meetings. Last year, I had 10 IEP meetings alone. Again, findings and parent advocacy, the system still has failed to timely correct course in a meaningful way. And I know you said not to discuss personal, but let me just lay it out here. MSDE order that PG County Public Schools issue a compliant IEP, and that was due in October of last year. We are in May. My son still is without a compliant IEP that MSDE order. So again, the big delay. So that is my biggest feedback for you all to take away, is to really have a deeper dive and have accountability for ensuring compliance and corrective action, and really take it serious, because federal law and Maryland special education law trumps PG County policies. And that is my feedback. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Yes. Okay, I think at this point I've heard from everyone whose hands are up, so I'll go back to those who have spoken before. Ms. Lyles, I know I made you kind of wait until the end to talk about safety and elopement. So is there anything else you want to share about that now?
Yes, I mean, I just want to share in general overall, because I'm listening to a lot of these parents talk. I can relate to each and every one of everyone's situation. My daughter attended infants and toddlers, and it's a blessing to have that, especially when you're a single mom, to get your child into school early to start learning. My baby's a COVID baby. She was diagnosed during COVID and started virtually through the infants and toddlers program before she got into a class. Inclusion classrooms, yes, it's very important, because I had mixed feelings. One, with my child being able to speak, but being put in classrooms where majority of the kids were significantly challenged verbally, I felt like it was going to degress her growth in her language. But the teachers were so well with them, but it also comes from the parent. You have to tell these teachers a lot about your child, what they can do, what they can't do, how, if you want them to push them, and for encourage them to push them, strengthen them. I do that with my child. My daughter's grown, she's 8 now. But she can talk, but she's selective of who she speaks with or who she responds to. And a lot of times it's the energy of the teachers too. These kids really pick up on character, energy. And if they don't feel a certain type of way, they're not going to respond or react or to what they're being told or what they do. And as far as the testing, you're right. The data isn't going to be accurate with them, because, for example, my daughter can read everything you put in front of her, but when she's in the classroom, she's not going to read. She's not going to verbalize it, but she knows it. She can say it. She can do it. But on the computer, it's more of, it's not what I want to do. But she loves school. She loves to learn. And I know she's learning what she's doing, and she shows it at home sometimes in ways I didn't even know. And she shows me the difference with her BT in here. She sat here one day and was doing extra math. I did it with her first. She wouldn't verbalize the math, say the numbers. Her BT came in here that Monday and asked her, what's 7 plus 2? She goes, 9. I'm like, wait a minute. I'm sitting here working, but I'm like, she just answered that, but she didn't do that for me. So a lot of this stuff, unfortunately, I'm sorry, even with the schools, my daughters attended a school where at first, because of COVID being ended when she started Francis Fuchs, beautiful school, early education. She was well in that school, but I couldn't go in the classroom. The BT couldn't go in the classroom, but you could come into the school and observe for the window. When she had gotten transferred to kindergarten, she started kindergarten at Belleville Academy. To me, it felt like it was a prison. They wouldn't let me come into school or come into class. I could come into school, but couldn't come into class. I could only observe from the door. But she was climbing on objects. She was trying to jump off of desks, that type of stuff. And I'm trying to help the teachers with my child, but they wouldn't allow me into the school. She
Ms.
goes
Lyles,
from there when we
Ms.
moved
Lyles.
to Allenwood, and I'm allowed to come into school and sit in the classroom. So all of this stuff is based on school, your teachers, the rules and policies, and it's unfortunate, but it needs to be
All right,
across
before
the
I
board.
go into the part where we share our last comments in the chat, I do want to point out that our interim superintendent, one of the things that he is very serious about is eliminating this variance that you all are talking about. How depending on the school you might have a totally different experience. He's really paying close attention to that. Everyone should have the same level of quality no matter where you are. So thank you for that. So I want to make sure that we all have a chance to get our last thoughts into the chat. So please, if you have anything else, and you can just type it and hit enter now. You don't have to wait. Anything you want to make sure that we capture, go ahead and put that in. We have about 1 minute to do that.
Is this the end of the public comments? Because I did have a closing comment.
Yes, that's the end of the oral comments, but you can write your comment into the chat and we will copy it over. And once we're done with that, I've just got one last thing to tell you. So let's go ahead and get our comments into the chat and we will copy it over. Okay, about 30 more seconds. Okay, that's our time. So let's make sure we copy all of those comments over. And we'll go to the next slide, please, Marcy. So I hope that you appreciated that format. Again, it's hard to make sure we really allow space for everybody's voice to be heard in the way that they want it to be heard. So um, I appreciate all of you who shared, whether it was orally or in the chat or otherwise. That's how we get better, is from hearing from you. So what we're going to do, again, we're going to take the transcripts, we're going to take the comments, we're going to put it all into a report. We're going to analyze it, make sure we get all the themes and ideas and all that, everything you said, right? And we are going to share that back with everyone who was registered for this meeting tonight. We're also going to post this session, the recording, on the SECAC website for those who weren't able to be here, or if you want to watch it again, that's fine too. And then we're going to take all that data, the report, and we're going to kind of pull it into one comprehensive report that will be shared with the Board of Education. So those are our next steps. And again, all of the feedback that you gave us is so critical in order to fill this out and make it complete. So thank you so much. All right, I'm going to send it over to Michelle, who's going to give us information about the survey.
So everyone, we kindly ask that if you take a moment and scan the QR code, we can also drop it in the chat for you to give us your feedback outside of what you've already given us today, but more specifically regarding the format of tonight's forum.
Thank you. Okay, Ms. Payne, I believe it is back to you for announcements.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Jason. Really appreciate your facilitation and all of the comments and the process and capturing the data from our parents and caregivers and using that data to drive change forward. I want to turn it over to Samantha Dawson Williams. One of the things that SECAC is doing is recruiting for a new board. We've had a process up and running and a nominating committee, and Samantha is going to share with you the new board slate and next steps of that process.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Janie. All right, so before we continue, so here is the SECAC PG updates. The SECAC PG bylaws voting process has officially concluded, and I would like to announce that the bylaws have passed by a vote of 5-4. I want to thank everyone who participated in this process through meetings, discussions, feedback, and voting. Bylaws are important because they create structure, establish procedures, and help ensure consistency and accountability for the organization moving forward. This process involved many discussions and differing perspectives, which reflects that members care deeply about SECAC PG and its future. While not everyone may have agreed on every provision, participation and engagement are important parts of a healthy organization. With the adoption of these bylaws, SECAC PG now has an updated governing framework to support future leadership transitions, elections, member participation, and organizational operations. Thank you to everyone who contributed their time and effort throughout the process. And we will now move into the next portion of tonight's agenda. Thank you. Also, for tonight, right after this meeting, can you all please stay on from 8 to 8:30? We're going to have a time where all the members can have questions for the candidates who are running for SECAC PG board for year 2026, 2027. Thank you.
And Samantha, will you please provide the names of who's running and the position they're running for, the slate?
Yeah, so before this meeting, we actually had our third nominating committee meeting where we asked the candidates 3 questions each, David, Alicia, and me. And 2 of the candidates were not there, so they will be asked to submit their video, answer their questions via video or, oh, hi, Sierra. That's one of the candidates. Via video or text, and we're going to make all that information available to all the members via the secacpg.org website, so you all can make a great determination before you cast your ballots. Teresa is running for chair, and then we have Peggy and Tanisha running for vice chair. Secretary is Sierra Valen. Co-secretary is actually vacant. And the treasurer is Pam Talley. And we're also going to have later discussions about how we're going to fill that co-secretary role and ask possibly for some input on that, so we can try to get the whole executive board filled if possible. Thank you.
Okay, so what I'm hearing, our parents, members of SECAC who'd like to stay on, there's going to be the opportunity to meet with the people who are running for the new board if you would like. It's a Q&A session. If you're not interested, it's not something you have to stay on to, but it gives you the opportunity to ask questions and to see who these people are, and to have them voice anything with you that they feel might be important as they move forward for positions on our board. So I want to thank everybody for attending this meeting. Those that are interested in staying on, please do so. This meeting will be recorded, and we'll make sure that the recording gets posted on our SECAC website, as well as the slides that Dr. Joseph presented, as well as the slides that Jason presented as well. I also want to share with you, Marcy, I think it's in the slides, our next meeting, our June meeting, we have 2 in June, actually. We have an expert talking about assistive technology. This is a organization that is funded federally and designed to help parents and caregivers understand how to meet their loved ones with disabilities needs when it comes to assistive technology, to include providing consultation for you at the IEP table. And then we also had a vote in terms of using our SECAC funds for another guest speaker for our parents and caregivers. And so the Parents Place of Maryland will be providing training on understanding data and a lot around our data and what it means and how to interpret data at the IEP table. So we're having back-to-back meetings in June, and I hope everybody can attend. So thank you very much. Appreciate you. And like I said, stay on if you're interested in having some interaction with the new board that's coming on.
Thank you, Janie. We have 2 more minutes.
Thank you, Janie.
Very welcome.
So let's go ahead and get started. It's a little bit early, but
Samantha, as we're transitioning, I'm sorry for
go ahead,
interrupting. I
David.
do believe that I was reading the chat very quickly. I'm seeing a lot of comments, so my apologies. But I think there was an ask if we could put the candidate slate on the screen, and I'm trying to track all the comments. And so what I did was I just made a very quick slide, if that's okay. And
Wonderful. Thank you.
You know,
no
having
worries.
like a
I'm gonna
lot of
do it.
tech issues over here. So if you
And
could do that, David,
I
that
did
would
it
be
quickly,
great.
y'all. So I just copied a list and I'm putting it up here and I'm doing it live. So if I got something wrong, we'll just correct me.
Okay.
And
No
I asked
worries.
folks if I could share my screen.
Okay.
And my name is wrong on the Zoom. So if Marcy, you can change me to Peggy Higgins.
I
Oh,
sure
Peggy.
will. I was
Okay.
right in the middle of doing that.
Okay, thank you.
Oh,
Sure.
David, that is
Not correct?
That's
no.
not correct,
And we should,
David.
yeah, and we
So,
should have their first and last name,
Yeah,
right?
yep. So I copied it from a slide, from something that I saw. So what I will do is take it down. And can someone, I told you we're doing it live, right? So my apologies.
yeah.
So I will share this
I
presentation.
can, do you want me to send you a quick email, David?
That would be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
It's on the way.
Disregard what you saw.
Okay. It's
We're hanging in
Teresa.
there.
Yeah, I think I know off the top of my head. Teresa, are you here? Where are you?
Definitely here, Miss Janie.
Okay, so we have Teresa Smith, who is running for the chair of SECAC PG. We have Tanisha Wooten. Are you here, Miss Wooten?
Yes. Good evening,
Okay,
everyone.
great.
Okay, it's still here.
Wonderful. Okay. And we have Peggy Higgins, who's also running for vice chair. We have Sierra Valen. Hopefully I'm saying, are
Yes,
you Miss
Sierra
Valen? Are you
Ballin.
here?
Correct.
Okay. Are you here? We see you.
She's
I'm
here. I
here.
just saw her in the chat.
Wonderful. And we
And
have
then
Pam
Pam.
Talley, who could not be here. She had a family emergency,
Okay, and is
who
Tally
is running
spelled,
for treasurer.
Okay,
is
I'm
Tally
sending that
spelled
over right now,
Talley?
David. David, I just
Okay.
sent you the email. I wrote it down as Jane was saying it, and I just sent the email over to you.
Perfect.
And why don't we give each of our candidates, how about you take 2 minutes each and say anything to the group that you'd like to say? Let's keep it, we want to keep it
Let's keep it
equitable. So
very
you take
brief.
2 minutes.
Yeah.
We can then move around and then let's see if there are any Q&A that our members and parents and caregivers might have. Starting with you, Ms. Smith.
Good evening, everyone. So I have been deeply connected and dedicated to this school district for 14 years. My children are a part of the 136,000 students as well as the 11% who have disabilities. Professionally and personally, I am an adaptive and transformational leader with strong policy as well as an advocacy background. Thank you for this opportunity.
You left time on the clock. All right.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Dave.
Ms. Smith.
Baby Tracy.
Okay, let's hear from Ms. Wooten, who's running for vice chair.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Tanisha Wooten, and I'm seeking the role of the Vice Chair of SECAC because I'm deeply committed to strengthening the voice of families and ensuring that the committee remains a truly parent-led advisory body as intended. As a parent of two children on the autism spectrum who receive services through PG County Public Schools, I live the challenges, the frustrations, and the victories that so many families experience. That perspective fuels my passion for advocacy and my desire to help SECAC expand its outreach, improve engagement, and evaluate the concerns of parents in a meaningful and organized way. I believe in the mission of SECAC and want to contribute to building a strong, sustainable structure that empowers families, promotes transparency, and ensures that the needs of students with disabilities remain the center of every discussion with the district. Also, my background is in law enforcement. I've been a part of SECAC since 2020, and I'm used to serving my country because I am also a veteran. So I'm used to fighting for what's right, and I believe in integrity. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wooten. Next, we'll hear from Peggy Higgins, who is also running for vice chair.
Yes, thank you very much. I appreciate this opportunity. I'm Peggy Higgins. I'm a 36 year resident of Prince George's County and have worked in the county for probably about 36 years. I'm retired now. I'm a social worker, and my whole commitment and life's work has been in community work and strengthening families and building community. If I'm elected, where I see my skills could fit would be to really strengthen and build community and build the important work that SECAC is already doing as a foundation. We talked in our individual interviews that will be video shown to you what some of our ideas are. My commitment is not only because my whole career was working with families and children and interfacing with schools, but I do have my own godson who is 42 and has a 17-year-old autistic son as well in the system, as well as supporting a Hispanic parent, a Spanish only mom whose then seventh grade son was with first and second grade accommodations and was really mistreated by the system. So since January of 2023, we've gone through that difficult journey and certainly have felt the frustration, the helplessness, the disappointment, the despair at times of working in the system. I'm also a former school board member, and so know how systems work. And in my career, I have helped fix broken systems. So I bring those skills and my commitment to helping the children in our community. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Higgins. And Ms. Fallon?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Sierra Vallon, and I'm running for secretary. So to give you a little bit of background about myself, I'm a PGCPS parent of two children who receive special education or who are affected by disabilities that require special education. I'm a CCAC member and have been for more than a year. Professionally, I work in higher education as an administrator. A lot of my work involves communication, documentation, student support, advocacy, organizing complex information. And so that is why I'm interested in running for secretary, because I do think, because of my own experiences, that it's important to have a bridge between families and the recommendations that are being made to the district. And I believe as secretary, I can be central to that because I know I can create strong records. I know I can communicate clearly. I know that I can make sure that there's consistent follow-up. I can make sure that everything is preserved in the record and carried forward so that parents' voices are brought to the forefront. So that's a little bit about me. I'm looking forward to speaking more. And yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, everybody. Thanks, everybody. And so excited about the possibilities for this new board. So what questions do we have for our potential candidates? Ms. Wilson, I think I saw your hand first.
Good evening, and thank you to all the candidates who are extending themselves for this opportunity. My question is going to be for Ms. Teresa Smith. I believe she's the sole candidate for chair. And I come to you with a question about how do you intend to handle dissent? Unfortunately, when parents come into a meeting and they actually engage in dissent, it has been mischaracterized and misinterpreted as a negative behavior. However, dissent can be positive and productive. In fact, healthy dissent is one of the strongest indicators of a high functioning team, organization, or leadership culture. When people feel safe enough to disagree, it means that they trust the process, they care about the outcomes, and they believe that their voice matters. So, my question to you, Mrs. Smith, is that how do you intend to handle dissent? Because we all have all of our individual situations are nuanced. So we're going to hear a multitude of perspectives in these meetings. And I'm very concerned because in light of a statement that the interim superintendent made at one of our meetings a couple months back, when he says, yeah, we have some complaints. Yeah, it's just a group of parents, the same parents that just keep filing complaints. That comment that he made struck a chord with me because that tells me that dissent and advocacy for one's own child is not acceptable or tolerated here at PGCPS. And in SECAC, this is the safest place that parents have to express themselves in agreement and or dissent. And I'm curious as to what your approach is going to be to this in light of the current mischaracterizations and character assassinations that have taken place.
Thank you for that question. So, the role of SECAC is to advise and advise on policy. There is a policy related to engagement, which is 105, if I'm not mistaken, as well as an administrative procedure, 4217. So when it comes to dissent, if those two documents, I'm sorry, that is my medical device going off. With those two documents, if there is anything missing regarding dissent, disagreement, communication around IEP meetings, or anything of the like, my plan is to have that addressed there. I do understand that because of the topic area, there can be intense opposition. But to your point, we have systematic issues and we need to be able to discuss them together. And it always starts at the policy level from my perspective. So my answer will be to ensure that our documents are covering that so that we understand what the expectation is and systematically is being executed as such.
Thank you both. Is there another question?
Hi, Janie. Am I allowed to also add in on that question from Lisa?
Sure.
Okay. I just wanted to say from a vice chair perspective that I don't think that dissent is a disruption. It's not disrespectful, and it should be a protected form of participation. I think that as a chair or a vice chair, our responsibility is to ensure that every parent, caregiver, an educator and community member feel safe to speak in those spaces. And so ultimately, I would not say, I'm sorry to disagree with you right now, Teresa. I wouldn't say that policy is the driving factor. I would say that law is, and that we need to go by the law. Thank you.
And if I may follow up, parent participation is already in the law. So that's why we're at the policy level.
Yeah. Okay. I would like to weigh in on that as well. I think there's a difference between dissent, which is voicing your perspective and your opinion, which I think everyone would agree is very valid and important to hear different points of view. I think, and I don't know what the Superintendent Joseph was referring to. I don't know what specific thing he was talking about or what Miss Wilson is talking about. But what I would say is when the conversation shifts to assigning, you know, casting aspersions or going after people personally, then I think that becomes harmful to our group purpose to come together and focus on what's good for the children. So I am absolutely on board 100% with a rich and viable conversation about issues, as long as we can stay away from personalities. We're stronger together, and we want to shed light, not heat. That's what I have found to be helpful.
Thank you, Ms. Higgins. I just want to hope and believe that when you say people are going after people personally and casting aspersions, that is a
Yes.
fact, and that's something that you have experienced firsthand, that you would probably be able to produce some evidence of, and not secondhand.
Yeah, sure. I have heard it at prior meetings and have been rather startled by them. So maybe go back and listen to meetings, and you might have a different opinion.
Yeah, I do. Thank you very much.
Okay, so we can hear Alicia and then Alita, your questions.
Yes, I have a question for the vice chair's position. I would like to know what steps would you take to ensure SECAC operations align with the bylaws and the Maryland Open Meetings Act requirements?
I think that's pretty simple. We should follow the law and what the bylaws say. At least, I mean, I would assume Ms. Wooten would say the same thing, but I don't want to certainly speak for her.
So my
Thank
question
you,
is,
Ms.
what
Higgins. Let's hear
steps will
from
you
Ms. Wooten.
take, or what steps will
Yeah,
you
let's
take
hear
to
from Ms. Wooten
ensure
directly.
my steps?
Yeah.
I want to know what steps you will take, right? It's one thing we have policy, right? We have the bylaws. I'm asking you, what steps will you take to ensure that CCAC's operations are in line with the bylaws and with the Open Meetings Act?
Well, I'm familiar with the bylaw. I'll speak if that's all right, Ms. Wooten. So I'll finish my thought. If I understand the bylaws, if another member raises that this is a challenge to the bylaws, or if I see it, then I would, as vice chair, point that out to the chair.
Thank you. Ms. Wooten.
Yes, thank you so much, Alicia, for that question. I would say that under federal law, we have specific guidelines that govern us. Each state is actually governed by federal law to have a CCAC. And so those are the things that they outlined, an idea on how we're supposed to be developed is how I think the bylaw should be established. Bylaw, not going by making up things that are outside of those normal practices. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wooten. Alita.
Hi, yes. Thank you to the CCAC board, current board, for hosting this forum. I think that some of the discussion around dissent versus personality versus personal, or the the perception of personal attack has been pretty interesting, and I'm going to build a question off of that. Understanding that in order to implement system level change, the leadership often does have to be called out, at least by role, due to the responsibility of oversight and governance that is tied to their respective roles. With each of you that are vying for these board positions, how do you see your role when it comes to governance and oversight, and most of all, accountability to the law? I did hear the chair candidate speak about policy, but policy often has no punitive action that can be imposed if it is violated. So I guess maybe these are two separate questions. So one, for the role that you are competing for, what do you see as your duty when it comes to governance and oversight? And number two, when it comes to the law versus policy, what value or what disadvantage do you see when it comes to parents advocating, even if it means that there is a perception of personal disagreement?
I think, was that question for Teresa, Alita? Or you said all the candidates, right?
All of the candidates, correct. Because I think that that's, and Janie, feel free to say if it can't be posed to all of the candidates, but I think that is important for each board member or candidate to be able to explain, because they are all running for positions that are tied to governance and oversight.
Sure.
Thank you. Let's have them answer in order, 2 minutes each, starting with Teresa.
Okay, so the question is, what would be my role? Sitting in the chair for SECAC, I don't have a governance or oversight role. That is the Board of Education. I do believe as chair, it is critical that I communicate with the Board of Education if there is a governance or oversight concern. As it relates to accountability, again, it comes to the point of bringing this awareness on whatever that issue is regarding accountability to the Board of Education as well as to the district administration. Um, it would be quite interesting to know specifically what the concerns are as it relates to accountability, because I have raised concerns about autonomy as it relates to special education or the special education program. So we know that there are different barriers that exist within the organizational structure. So I could only advise on what these concerns are, but hope that our administration, as well as our Board of Education, can address the accountability part. So my duty would simply be to collaborate with the powers that be. And then as it relates to value and disadvantages of advocacy, I don't think that there's a disadvantage with advocacy at all. I want to empower and encourage every stakeholder to advocate, whether it's about your child, any other child, a policy, a procedure, a process, even a bill. That's why we have voices. So I am a strong advocate about advocacy. I don't feel that there's a disadvantage. Thank you.
Perfect time.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to clarify. According to the Harvard School of Law, if an entity has bylaws, that is the concrete evidence of the requirement for governance and oversight. And I'm happy to provide my reference. But just so that other candidates understand that if you are running for a candidacy for an entity that has bylaws, governance and oversight is thereby mandated according to the bylaws that have been established.
I'm sorry, I didn't know that the question was specific to the bylaws of SECAC. I was viewing that question at a broader level.
Thank you.
So would any of the other candidates like to respond to this question?
She asked for each candidate to answer her question if you all are able to.
Well, So, and I'm opening it up to see if any of the other candidates wish to do so. Yeah.
Yes,
I
I'd
don't
like to
mind
speak.
saying, our goal, our purpose is to represent the parents and to make sure that we are very active in having PGCPS provide the best services to each individual child. I've heard the administration talk that that's their goal as well. So I'm not sure. I mean, if we're all marching towards the same goal, and if there is a difference of opinion, then following the bylaws and the law seems to be pretty straightforward to me. The what the chair spoke about makes sense to me, because in the end, what we want to do is come together and collaborate, so that we can speak with one voice to the administration and get effective results on behalf of our children.
Ms. Wooten, would you like to
Yes.
respond?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you. As vice chair of SECAC, my role is not just symbolic. It carries real oversight and governance responsibilities rooted in federal, state, and SECAC bylaws. My job is to ensure that the committee operates legally, transparently, and in the best interest of the students with disabilities and their families. So upholding federal law, in IDEA, you have IDEA the 1412A21, where it must ensure meaningful parent participation, not where you just have it where we're just continuously talking. We have to allow our parents to provide feedback to us at every single meeting so that we can definitely gain insight and ensure that we're actually hearing the voices of our parents and our family so that we can advocate for them and give advice to the Prince George's County Board of Education. And so we're ensuring that parents' voices are respected, documented, and incorporated into recommendations, protecting the rights of parents to express concerns, dissent, or repeated issues without retaliation. Without retaliation. Ensuring that the committee's work aligns with IDEA purposes, improving outcomes for students with disabilities. Also ensuring compliance with SECAC bylaws, which should be governed by federal laws, not something that we make up. Also, oversight of transparency and public access. We should make sure that all meetings are public, that we don't have anything where nothing is hitting, no background talks are happening behind closed doors. Accountability for ethical and respectful operations as well. No parent or member should be silenced, dismissed, or targeted. And so conflicts of interest are disclosed and managed as well, because there are a lot of conflicts of interest, I feel like there are. So governance through monitoring and corrective action as well. And so the oversight means identifying when procedures drift from law or bylaws, recommend corrective steps, ensure follow through on committee decisions, support transparency and reporting recommendations to the district.
Fine.
And so we're responsible for making sure SECAC work is not just symbolic, that is actionable, and there's accountability. So thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ms.
I would like to say
Valen,
amen.
would you like to, I'd like to give Ms. Valen, because we have just a couple of minutes left. Ms. Valen, is there anything that you'd like to say?
Yes, I would. So, as someone who's running for secretary, I think that oversight and accountability is going to show up through the records. And that is how I see the role of secretary. I think that the minutes, the agenda, the action items, following up on action items, the correspondence with our community, the correspondence with our partners within the district, the annual reports that we're submitting, all of that is not just paperwork or something to check off a list. This is how we culminate what we're doing in these meetings. This is how we show up. This is how we capture what happened, what was decided, what themes there are, what our families are actually dealing with, and how we're addressing them, and what still needs to be followed up on, most importantly. So that's something that I feel like as secretary, I can be sure to do that. I can make sure that data is captured in a way where student information is protected, but it is also uh, looked at from a zoomed out scope so that we can identify themes and just kind of get some aggregate data so that we can share with the district so that we can have meaningful support and processes that benefit our families. Thank
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank
So
you so much.
I want to just appreciate Samantha, sorry, did I?
Oh
I'm
no, I was
gonna
just saying I was just thanking her for that answer.
Okay. I just want to appreciate this session and appreciate those parents and caregivers who stayed on to ask questions of our candidates. Appreciate the candidates who are willing to step up. You know, when I joined SECAC 10 years ago, we were meeting at John Carroll and we could barely get 4 or 5 people to show up, right? Or even care about what we were doing. And so it's great now that there's an interest in SECAC, and there's such an opportunity to leverage SECAC to make a difference for our parents and caregivers. We may argue about the best way to accomplish that, and you know that's fair, but I think the commitment that each of you have is clearly obvious. So I want to thank you so much for being willing to give your time and your talent to SECAC and to support our parents and caregivers. So thank you so much. Please be on the lookout for your ballot so you can cast that vote. And we'll make sure that the announcement is on our SECAC website so that you know who our new board is. And I would ask everyone to give our new board the support that they deserve as they move forward to make change for our children. All righty. Thank you so much. This session is ended.
Good
Thank
night.
you,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Have a good night. Thank you for attending.